First, sit in a circle, a square somehow with your students in a 360-degree formation. Introduce yourself, your passions, a bit of your story, your family, and then explain clearly why you are there. Ask for confirmation of understanding, comprehension of why you are there. If any students ask questions about the program, answer them with kindness. If any ask questions about the immediate detaining institution, kindly set those aside until after class. Ask the students to go around the circle and to introduce themselves similar to the way you did. As each student speaks, listen closely, watch earnestly, and feel for their presented need for mentorship, or at least some kind of support. That is, all of them will need mentorship, but not show it right away. You are not the best fit mentor for every student. Some will be steadfast in their asking and moving to be mentored immediately. In this, a seasoned mentor or instructor can often discern which students need or want academic support and which need or want social support. Both types of students are crucial to establishing the culture of the program and the daily climate of the circle. I keep a clear plastic rectangular box. It stands about 10 inches high. It's maybe 5 inches deep and it slides open from the sides. I've used this box as an icebreaker tool for many years now. It also serves as a kind of conch to indicate the holder's speaking authority. The box is filled with little folded up pieces of paper. Each piece of paper has a name or two written within its folds. We pass the box around the circle, and each student holds it, slides it open, slips in their little folded post-it, and they tell us a little bit about the name, the person. I often ask them to write the name of someone they truly love. I also ask them to write the name of someone of whom they are sure truly loves them. I always start the process and I reveal my vulnerability intently as I speak the name of my daughter, Eliana, or my mother, Norma. I tell them a brief story about each person, why I love them, why they love me, and then I pass the box. I call this tool the love box because it contains not only little folds of paper with the names scribbled within, but it also holds the stories of the students themselves, their families, genealogies, histories, love and pain. After about 5 years of using this box, it is teeming with bits of paper, and the students have to slide it open very slowly or else the names will come spilling out for sure, and they do, and then we put them back in. The box is placed in the center of the table for at least the first week. If the students continue to find it as a useful mnemonic to spark reflection, narrative, persona, then it should continue to be used. I remind them as we look at the box sitting in the center of the table that the names and stories therein deserve our respect, and likewise the names, the students sitting around the table deserve our respect as we tell stories, as we read literature, write flows, record podcasts, whatever. There are other questions you can ask to prompt names, stories. Who do you know that has overcome great odds? Who do you know that has survived a violent act? Who is someone that helped you when you were in trouble? You must be informed, patient, and vulnerable. It helps if you've maybe been to jail yourself, or at least have an intimately known experience with the criminal justice system. From an inmate or a prisoner's point of view is best, not from working for the state. This does not mean from a correction officer's point of view, though there are those COs that will be helpful, knowledgeable, and productive to the process. And another third or last portion will totally be against what you are trying to do. These correction officers view your students as mere targets. The power negotiation between, say, a 17-year-old detained student from a distant county and a 30-year-old man with a local high school diploma fit in military fatigues with handcuffs and backup. I mean, it's a non-issue. There is no negotiation. Leadership models within the juvenile justice system for the most vulnerable students, they're found in commanding mechanization of human beings' bodies as capital as products for pushing and shaping for profit. You, as the outsider now on the inside, must not push. You must learn how to pull. Not so much just yet. The first pull is a most intimate of service, the service of just receiving. This might be listening for you or not, but to receive the student's name, their words, their names in that box, the words on the paper, the words about those names, you must pull words out of yourself that can remain laid out in the open for the students as they triangulate their perceptions of you, the outsider, and they try to carve out a space for a little bit of trust that they can invest in you. Often almost the last bit left for some. For the short time that your lives intersect, there behind the walls and under the thumb. Forget about loving the students. Talking about parental nurturing parent love, not romance. Forget about it all. If it's activist scholarship, especially with detained students, there's really no time to wonder about love other than the names in the box, in their hearts and yours, the stories behind those names. Stories that become stones that you and they will both step upon as you cross rough water, undoubtedly in the future. If you're a male working with incarcerated males, do not open the circle with a story of danger or survival, violence or exploits that encourage notions of masculinity and power, force or domination. These students often are already inundated with those same themes. They're overwhelmed with narratives about the same. There will be plenty of time and space for that, and often the best sharing of such tales, because they are important, comes at the end of the program. You should not ignore the tales of trickery and deception, nor should you prohibit yourself from using such stories, if and when they contain priceless jewels of wisdom. An obvious example would be how, say, a changed person can learn from their past mistakes. Maybe a former gangster can now see how he was then just a bully, and how bullies are really cowards in their hearts because they're afraid of being dominated, so they in turn dominate. Even when such tactics are not necessary, they're not called for, if they ever truly are. Now, if you haven't lived through such experience, then I wouldn't use that parable. The student's spaces for trust and truth narrow when the teacher's words are not clear and lived in. You are expected to let them down, maybe even lie to them a little, but keep it simple. If you are teaching spoken word poetry, teach spoken word poetry. If you are teaching entrepreneurial concepts, teach those. If you are telling a story about your life and your lived experience, tell the truth. Do not be afraid of telling the detained students of how you fucked up, fell down, hit your head, or how you come from white privilege. Be clear. I like to tell them about how I was a bad drug dealer, about how I never made any real money, how I always ran out of my stuff. I tell them the truth. I was a good thief and a good strong-arm guy. That's it. I seem to always get caught up, and I got caught a couple times too. I tell them about how I had the realization within 5 minutes of being in cuffs, stuffed in the back on that unforgivably hard back seat, that jail was not for me. I was not even at the jail yet, but on mere aesthetic preference, I already had an understanding about my body, my temperament, and the criminal justice system. I tell them the stories from the point of view of an adult man, a redeemed citizen, a conscious father. I do not tell stories from the point of view of who I was when the story happened, from who I am telling the story. It is a reflection, but reflexive too. It's a fine-toothed rake of sorts that sifts over my body, my story, my name, and it continues to find new nuggets of knowledge, lessons to learn, perhaps fetishized types of continuous self-improvement, self-refinement. I do not try to impress them with who I thought I was when I was young. No kingpin braggadocio, no tales of grandeur and conquest, but lessons in wisdom and tales of redemption instead. Take your dick out of it. Those of you with dicks, forgive me. Take sex and possession out of it, out of your words. You are not fucking. You are not controlling. You are not commanding like the controlling officers that are on site already in military fatigues. You are not them. You are not your students. You are not planting seeds. They are. You are not constructing a garden. They are. You are not shaping and molding, raising, or erecting. They are. You walk with the stories into the unknowable terrain, and along the way, you should be able to make some identifications that point to new directions, new stones to step upon across the troubled stream. It's you that walks next to them. And you might be able to, if only for yourself and your own notes, take, say, a taxonomical assessment of said walk, seeing, hearing, feeling, asking about names, placing names here and there as markers, the same stones that you step upon when you get lost, leave a trail back home, spaces providing time to rest and to breathe. For the incarcerated student, maybe these spaces will provide an opportunity to have a revelation, an epiphany. This is your poll. You must wait and watch, not trying to do anything really, but being ever present with curricula, resources, words, stories to engage their imagination. Again, engage it again, and then engage it again. Amid the slamming doors, locking gates, the guards with their incredibly annoying squawkers interrupting every other moment of class, amid the noise in each student's mind, you show them tools that they can use to erect the walls of said theaters of the mind. Imagine worlds that will create themselves and destroy themselves in one utterance. The students' words are the ways into these worlds. Their words, not yours. Their worlds, not yours. If they are speaking, that is good. If you are speaking, they had better be hanging on every word. Which topics will provide apt interest for an incarcerated orphan who is whip smart, but who has been hated at every stage of her young life? Her interests and yours may just overlap, maybe not. But each word is the name of a story, a door opening when things get stuffy and troubled. Take note of those words, the stories that pique students' interest, the ones that provide life, lessons to latch onto, to find a new word, to open a new door, and start that new story. I personally have found that rap lyrics, which depict creative, imaginative, and poetic ways of capturing painfully dangerous realities from the street, are great entryways into a discussion about, say, the powers of language. For instance, a couple of examples that illustrate kind of the ambiguous connotations of speech, especially to the untrained ear, but also which call into question uses of time and space, are from the artist DJ Khaled in South Park, Mexican. DJ Khaled has a song titled I'm So Hood, and all the lyricists on that song describe in great detail what I'm So Hood signifies: sagging pants, territorialization, a kind of way of life. Another artist could show it instead of telling it, show it instead of telling it. For example, in SPM, South Park's Mexican song SPM versus Los, he describes with greater poetic imagery how being hood might look to him, wherein he says, I was raised on beans and rice, and if you shot at my crib, I wouldn't be surprised. Mama used to trip 'cause I fed the mice. I'm the one they sent home because my head had lice. I'm the kid who lost his sanity. I'm the kid who had the toys with no batteries. Mama sat me down for some serious talks on how to keep the rats about the cereal box. In that example, incarcerated students can feel the texture of a life lesson as such, as being taught to say, keep rodents out of food, out of a cereal box, or about the humility that comes with having head lice at school. In rap lyrics, and perhaps especially with students who are fanatical about hip-hop and their favorite rappers, and there's endless amounts of lyrical content to analyze, to mine for metaphors, for intelligence, history, mentoring opportunities, but mostly for a connection to each student's heart. Where is the heart? Where? What is it? Words, lyrics, flows, rhymes, raps, These, your archaeological tools and instruments. Don't dig. You don't dig. Not you. You just present the tools and fix them when they break. Show them how to use them a little bit. The thought behind the tool, behind the instrument, behind the word, behind the mind. You let the students shape the flow, hone the direction, and either contain or conduce what they will. You are not there to contain the students nor conduct them. You are there to begin discussions in plain language about social complexity, political agency, matrices of power, and human capital, and how those students' actual physical, literal bodies have been affected by those four components. These concepts are common, knowable, but their domains must be addressed through the students' chosen methods. Start with stories. Language made from real experience, from living words, from the names of real people. Start there. And when you get to the end, you will know. Because the students' adoption of critical reflection come activist participation, if only made manifest through their rewording of some, say, Tupac lyrics, or through an expansion of a notion of you, the teacher, or a notion that you previously presented to them that reminds them of them. Their thoughts do not have to be original, but the words conveying those thoughts need to be weighty, impassioned, and intentional. These thoughts are born out of a work that I've employed in a juvenile justice system here in Texas for the past 5 years. It's called the SEEDS program. It's a creative curriculum designed to train incarcerated students in linguistic mastery. It utilizes an outsider within approach, recognizing that the juvenile detention center is a border space occupied by groups of unequal power, the staff, the children, and me, the outsider. The incarcerated students are children aged 12 to 17 years, and they're in need of thoughtful, consistent intervention. Yet these same students, these same children, are often made to feel inadequate, incompetent, and as if they are in a perpetual state of error, as if they are the cause of society's ills, or maybe even just their own school's ills. The SEEDS program aims to disrupt the current method, the emerging method of mass warehousing as rehabilitation. Our students, our most vulnerable students. For 5+ years, I've collected their words, their poems, their stories, their tales, their letters home, their testimonies about life before detention, during detention, and thoughts, visions of the free. Compiled these works, these words, these writings of these students, these multitude of students that have come from counties all over the state of Texas in a book that is almost 400 pages of their words. And to read their words is a way to cross a threshold, to open a door into their world, into their mind, and to learn the names of the stories that have shaped these most in need young students. And you can buy the book. I think it's about $16 and some change, 15, 16 bucks. And the money from that just goes back into publishing more books and to developing the program. The ultimate vision is to replicate a curriculum in juvenile detention centers statewide, nationwide, worldwide. Real rock from the rock. An unusual creative happening in a most unusual place.